In 1998, a naturally aspirated road car, no turbochargers, no all-wheel drive, and a 6-speed manual gearbox averaged 240 miles per hour. The McLaren F1 held the production car top speed record for nearly a decade, and nobody could credibly beat it. Then Ferdinand Piëch declared 400 kilometers per hour was not a fantasy, but a Volkswagen Group engineering target. What Bugatti built to finally dethrone the F1 demanded 16 cylinders, 4 turbochargers, and over 1,000 horsepower. Whether that was brute force or genuine sophistication is a question the numbers alone cannot answer. On March 31, 1998, McLaren brought their pre-production prototype, chassis XP5, to the Arlesian Proving Ground in northern Germany. This massive private facility, owned by the Volkswagen Group, featured an ultra-flat 5.4-mile straightaway. At the wheel was veteran racing driver Andy Wallace, tasked with keeping the carbon fiber machine stable as its naturally aspirated BMW V12 climbed through the rev range. To secure an official record recognized by international bodies, the team had to follow a strict protocol. Wallace was required to complete timed passes in opposite directions within a set window. This two-way average was designed to eliminate any assistance from wind or track gradient, ensuring the result represented the car's genuine capability rather than a favorable environment. The XP5 prototype was engineered to the exact specification of the production cars delivered to customers. It retained the central driving position, the 6-speed manual gearbox, and the rear-wheel drive layout designed by Gordon Murray. There was no traction control, no active stability systems, and no forced induction. Instead, the team relied on mechanical efficiency and a remarkably low curb weight. By utilizing a carbon fiber monocoque, the vehicle weighed just over 1,100 kilograms, transforming a pure road car into the ultimate benchmark of straight-line speed. This run on Volkswagen's private tarmac established a baseline that would dominate the industry for a decade, long before Volkswagen themselves used the exact same facility to challenge it. The timing gear registered a precise two-way average of 386.4 kilometers per hour, exactly 240.1 miles per hour. This official figure secured Guinness recognition, establishing a baseline of truth that separated certified engineering from mere marketing claims. During the runs, test driver Andy Wallace observed a brief, single-direction peak of approximately 391 kilometers per hour on his instruments, later recalling 391. It will not go any more than 391. Yet, while that fleeting maximum captured the public's imagination, the official record remained anchored to the lower, two-way average. A bidirectional run forces a machine to fight wind resistance and track gradients in both directions within a strict time limit, proving genuine mechanical capability rather than a temporary environmental advantage. This strict procedural standard preserved the F1's supremacy against future challengers. In February 2005, the Koenigsegg CCR clocked 387.87 kilometers per hour at the circular Nardo Ring in Italy. Although technically faster than the McLaren's average, the CCR's run relied on a single-direction protocol on a circular track, failing to meet the rigorous two-way straight-line requirements. As a result, the Koenigsegg could not officially replace the F1 in the record books. The McLaren's official reign lasted for 7 years, stretching from 1998 until Bugatti's milestone breakthrough in 2005. During this time, and for years after, the F1 remained the accepted benchmark against which all production car claims were judged. Gordon Murray designed the McLaren F1 around a single, uncompromising mandate: to apply Formula One technology directly to a road-legal machine. At the heart of this philosophy sat a 6.1-liter, naturally aspirated BMW S70 V12 engine producing approximately 627 horsepower. Because it rejected turbochargers, the power delivery remained linear and immediate, allowing the driver to control traction with precise throttle adjustments. This motor sat within a chassis built to minimize mass. As the first production road car utilizing a full carbon fiber monocoque, the F1 achieved immense structural strength without carrying unnecessary weight. In its record-setting XP5 configuration, the vehicle weighed only 1,115 kilograms. This low mass gave the F1 an incredible power-to-weight ratio. Power-to-weight dictates the physical mass each unit of horsepower must propel. By keeping the car light, less energy was wasted overcoming inertia, allowing the V12's power to translate directly into forward momentum. However, as speed climbs, the primary opponent shifts from physical weight to air resistance. Aerodynamic drag increases exponentially at high velocities, requiring either overwhelming horsepower or a shape that easily slips through the air. The F1 conquered the air through a low-drag body design, clean underbody airflow, and a central driving position. This central seat not only placed the driver at the exact center of gravity for perfect balance and visibility, but it also narrowed the cabin profile, reducing the vehicle's frontal area. Power went to the rear wheels through a 6-speed manual transmission, a direct, unfiltered layout that saved weight but demanded absolute skill from the driver. There was no all-wheel drive system to assist traction, nor any turbochargers to force air into the engine. Every component had to earn its place. To protect the carbon fiber body from the V12's immense running temperatures, engineers lined the engine bay with 16 grams of pure gold heat shielding, reflecting thermal energy away from the chassis. Yet, Murray always maintained that the car wasn't about speed records, but rather about creating the finest driving instrument possible. This design philosophy created a masterpiece of analog purity, but it also left a lingering question. What happens when lightness and mechanical simplicity are no longer enough to rewrite the limits of automotive speed? In 1999, Volkswagen Group chairman Ferdinand Piëch rewrote the rules of performance engineering. He unveiled the Bugatti Veyron concept with a mandate that many in the industry believed was impossible: an engine producing 1,000 PS and a top speed exceeding 400 kilometers per hour. Unlike the McLaren F1, which optimized a finished, lightweight design, the Veyron was assembled around an unsolved equation. The 400 km/h target was a strict engineering constraint rather than a hoped-for result. To meet it, the development team had to address a complex web of physical obstacles. They had to manage immense engine heat, design tires that would not disintegrate under extreme rotational forces, and maintain aerodynamic stability without creating excessive drag, all while ensuring the car remained reliable and completely road legal. Piëch's ambition was to place Bugatti at the forefront of automotive engineering, but his uncompromising goals sparked widespread internal skepticism. Between 2000 and 2001, soaring costs and early technical failures pushed the program to the brink of cancellation. Bugatti was forced to build a vehicle that could survive its own promised performance. On April 19, 2005, the Bugatti Veyron 16.4 arrived at the Arlesian Proving Ground to answer Ferdinand Piëch's ultimate challenge. With driver Pierre-Henri Raffanel operating the controls, the car completed its timed runs under the strict oversight of Germany's TÜV inspection agency. The timing gear registered a two-way average of 408.8 kilometers per hour, equivalent to 253.8 miles per hour. This certified run made the Veyron the first production road car to officially cross the 400 kilometers per hour barrier, establishing a new standard of performance. Achieving this velocity required a highly integrated network of mechanical systems. At the center lay an 8.0-liter W16 engine. By arranging 16 cylinders in a compact W configuration, engineers distributed massive combustion loads across a relatively small block. 4 turbochargers harvested exhaust energy to force high-density air into the cylinders, generating approximately 1,001 PS and 1,250 Newton-meters of torque. This immense torque made the vehicle's substantial mass manageable, but transferring that output to the ground required a complete departure from traditional rear-wheel drive supercars. An all-wheel drive system distributed torque across both axles, ensuring the power went directly into the road surface and prevented the rear tires from losing grip. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission managed these forces by executing gear changes in milliseconds, maintaining uninterrupted acceleration as the W16 climbed through its rev range. Official German validation verified that this achievement was anchored in strict production standards. Every component operated as an interdependent package, translating raw power into stable, controlled forward momentum. On July 4, 2010, Bugatti returned to the era Lessian straight to push the envelope of production performance far beyond the threshold of 400 kilometers per hour. At the wheel of the Veyron Supersport was French racing driver Pierre-Henri Raffinel. To achieve a new benchmark, the Supersport's 8-liter W16 engine was heavily revised. Engineers fitted larger turbochargers and optimized the air intakes, raising output to an astonishing 1,200 PS and 1,500 Newton-meters of torque. Conquering extreme velocities requires far more than raw power. Because aerodynamic drag rises exponentially with speed, the physical force fighting the car at 430 kilometers per hour is vastly greater than at 400. Overcoming this wall of air required a total integration of structural, aerodynamic, and electronic engineering. To prepare the vehicle for the run, Raffinel had to insert the dedicated speed key. This mechanical override initiates a system-wide transformation. It lowers the ride height to reduce underbody airflow, seals front diffusers, and adjusts the active rear wing to a low-drag angle. Every physical parameter was actively managed by an onboard electronic control network. These digital systems continuously monitored and coordinated ride height, aerodynamic load, engine thermal stress, and power distribution across the all-wheel drive system. To prevent the chassis from buckling under the extreme aerodynamic downforce and structural loads, Bugatti reinforced the monocoque with stiffer carbon fiber weave. Thermal management was further enhanced with larger front grills and redesigned NACA ducts on the roof to feed the uprated intercoolers. Putting this immense torque to the ground safely rested on specialized Michelin tires designed to withstand centrifugal forces that would tear conventional rubber apart in seconds. Raffinel completed his runs under the scrutiny of Guinness and German TÜV inspectors. The timing gear registered a two-way average of 431.072 kilometers per hour, equivalent to 267.856 miles per hour. Beside this highly integrated, digitally managed machine, the unassisted manual victory by the McLaren F1 in 1998 seemed like an artifact from a simpler era, illustrating a stark transition from analog mechanical purity to the triumph of systems engineering. On April 12, 2013, Guinness World Records withdrew the Veyron Supersport's title as the world's fastest production car. The decision hinged on a specific software setting. During the year 2010 run, Bugatti engineers deactivated the car's factory electronic speed limiter, which was set to 258 miles per hour on customer cars to prevent tire failure. Guinness investigators argued that disabling this limiter altered the vehicle's standard delivery specification, disqualifying it from the production car category. Bugatti contested the decision, maintaining that the engine, aerodynamics, and chassis remained identical to customer models. They argued that removing an electronic software limit did not constitute a mechanical modification. After consulting automotive experts, Guinness reinstated the record 3 days later, on April 15, 2013, concluding that the software adjustment did not alter the fundamental vehicle design. The dispute revealed how software-selectable performance modes complicate the definition of a production car. While the mechanical achievement of 431 kilometers per hour was never in doubt, the controversy showed that modern top-speed records are dictated as much by regulatory rules as they are by engineering limits. At the limit of automotive performance, two distinct philosophies tackled the problem of speed. The McLaren F1 minimized physical resistance through extreme reduction. By pairing a lightweight carbon fiber chassis with a naturally aspirated V12, it relied on low aerodynamic drag and rear-wheel drive directness, bypassing the weight penalties of complex mechanical systems. The Bugatti Veyron accepted massive weight as the trade-off for immense forced induction output. While weight dictates how a vehicle accelerates at lower speeds, aerodynamic drag becomes the ultimate opponent as velocity climbs. Overcoming this wall of air forced Bugatti to abandon minimalism. They engineered an all-wheel drive system to maintain traction, backed by active aerodynamics, extensive cooling networks, and electronic stability controls that manage the car's extreme operating envelope. This evolution did not render the McLaren obsolete. Instead, it represented a shift in engineering ambition. The F1 achieved its performance through mechanical balance and structural discipline. The Veyron conquered the same environment through complex systems integration, demonstrating that the barrier of air resistance could be broken by either pure, lightweight efficiency or perfectly orchestrated mechanical force. The shared asphalt of the Aralesian straight links these two milestones, yet the machines themselves belong to different eras. The McLaren F1 represents the absolute peak of 20th century supercar design, answering a singular question: how light and mechanically pure can a vehicle be while remaining exceptionally fast? It achieved its legendary status through reduction, relying on direct driver inputs, natural aspiration, and physical balance. By contrast, the Bugatti Veyron redefined the limits of performance. It shifted the 400 km/h barrier from an academic fantasy into a concrete systems engineering target. Instead of stripping away mass, Bugatti accepted weight as the necessary price for unmatched high-speed stability, layering all-wheel drive, active aerodynamics, and complex cooling networks to establish the modern hypercar. This change did not render the McLaren obsolete. The F1 remains culturally significant because it pushed the limits of mechanical simplicity. The Veyron, however, proved that conquering air resistance required overwhelming technology. It represents a fundamental transition in automotive engineering, shifting the pursuit of speed from a triumph of lightweight design to a masterclass in digital systems integration. Today, hypercars chase extreme speeds using hybrid power and digital control. As software replaces physical connection, the cost of progress becomes clear. Bugatti proved that computational power can defeat air resistance. Yet, McLaren's analog purity remains irreplaceable. We conquered velocity, but we surrendered the driver. Which era of performance do you prefer? Let us know in the comments.